Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Another Friday, as I always say, because when I blink, it's flippin' Friday. But it's awesome. It's awesome. It means the weekend is ahead and we can spend some time on things that we maybe really want to do or continue with the things that we've been doing throughout the week, whatever it is that makes you happy and get the juices flowing and the heart pumping, that you can do that. So good morning. Very nice to have everybody with us this morning. And really excited for another interesting show. We're going to have the news and the personal development segment as always. And then we're going to talk about some clever marketing tactics. And then we also today, the bonus segment is a technology segment where I'm going to be talking about a fit for purpose CRM. I've had many conversations about CRM in the last 2 years or so. And I thought, maybe it's a good time, just a 5-minute discussion on CRM, things that you need to look out for. And then we'll do the wrap at the end. So welcome to everybody. Very nice to see you all here. And good morning, Kobus. Welcome back. And yes, the early bird catches the worm. I almost missed being early and the worm. Had an interesting evening last night. A battle to get to sleep or to just fall asleep. And I basically fell asleep when I had to start the show almost. So it was one of those mornings. But here we are. Sima, good morning. Very nice to see you here as well. And we've got Tinas and Khomotso in the house. Good morning. Renee, very nice to see you. Rizan, very nice to have you with us so early in the morning. Good morning. Jaco Roots, baie môre, goeiemôre. Baie môre, goeiemôre, ja. And then Ben Kleinhans, good morning. Ben, also nice to see you here. Ben from 2020. Alrighty, so with that, we are ready to get the show started. And as always, we have the news with David Kopp from the FPI.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the show. And again, in your news at 7 o'clock, we've got some headlines for you. The first one being the FSCA normally publishes warnings about people doing some bad things. And this one was about a Mrs. Grace Smith who was using the the FSB logo to convince people that the FSB had intercepted funds that were falsely classified as inheritances or lotteries, and is asking members of the public to provide details such as their ID numbers, their occupations, their addresses, and their cell numbers in order to have the funds released. The FSCA has warned that Ms. Smith or whoever this person actually is not in fact an employee of the FSCA nor a licensed financial services provider, and the public should be careful about when dealing with her. And again, just a warning that consumers should be looking at the FSCA's website or contacting the FSCA to confirm that the person that they're dealing with is in fact a licensed financial services provider. Then in breaking news last night, the Department of Home Affairs has actually released the new critical skills list. Now, the critical skills list is the skills that are being sought after in South Africa. It was last updated in 2014, so I think about time for an update. And the list identifies jobs that are needed in South Africa that overseas workers can actually apply for visas, and it makes them easier to get visas. The list does include several occupations that actually affect us as financial planners. So items such as the tax practitioner, the investment analyst, the investment manager, the investment advisor, and the financial investment advisor are on that list. So it's good to see that there is a focus on financial planning and financial advice industry, that there are in fact skills that are needed, and we do need to grow our profession. The FSCA on their news website has also got a paper entitled How Soup Tech Can Help Empower Regulators. So we've heard of FinTech, we've heard of RegTech, and now there is Soup Tech, which is supervisory technologies. That is a key capability underpinning how regulators will supervise financial institutions in the future. So Soup Tech looks at things like regulatory reporting, data management, crime surveillance, and identity management. There's investigator Soup Tech, which essentially is used to detect non-compliance. And the one that excited me quite a lot was the preventative Soup Tech, which is essentially using technology to identify and look at breaches before they actually happen. So we're talking some minority report stuff happening here, preventing the crime before it starts. The report did indicate that the soup tech environment in South Africa is at its early development stages and room for growth, but there's definitely a focus on that. And I think to help the FSCA with their mandate of being more proactive and inclusive, we will see a lot more uptake of technology from regulators in South Africa. Then things to look forward to. Next week on the 24th of February, Tito Mbeni will present his budget to Parliament. Hopefully we'll see how those promised infrastructures and the COVID response will be handled and funded. So everything that was promised in the State of the Nation address, this is where we see where the money is going to come in order to do that. Cyber, the site, and FPI as professional bodies have joined forces to bring you insights about the budget, which starts on the 24th of February at 4:15, straight after the budget speech, and continues on the 25th of February with more analysis from 9 till 12. So if you are interested, you can visit the FPI website and you can still register for that event. Then in international news, the Federation of Financial Planners in Netherlands have committed to the CFP mark. So up until now, about the 3,000 members in the Netherlands have either used the FFP mark, which is a local financial planning designation, or the CFP mark, or both in combination. And they issued a press release committing that from 2022, all 3,000 of their members will be using the CFP mark and joining the international community of CFP professionals in 26 countries around the world, and with about 190,000 CFP professionals in the community. And finally, if you are interested, the CFA Society, in collaboration with the Financial Planning Institute and ABSA, will be hosting their next Collective Insights Roundtable. Now, Collective Insights is a quarterly publication in FinWeek, which looks at thought leadership in the investment and financial planning space. And this title of this roundtable is What Clients Taught Us About Their Needs in COVID, where the authors of the Collective Insight will be sharing their insights. That event takes place in the evening of the 22nd of February, and you can visit the CFA Society South Africa website for more details and to register. So thank you very much for listening and enjoy the rest of your Friday.
Awesome. Thank you very much, David. Thank you for that. I deeply appreciate it. It was, again, another jam-packed news session, very insightful. And guys, please go check out the Budget Trilogy. There is still space and time, so go and register for that if you would like to do that. They've got some great speakers there. I was part of it last year. I was on one of the panels, and but unfortunately this year there wasn't a topic that I would feel comfortable putting my hand up for. So it's really awesome. Go and check it out. It's a different level of discussion. It's really something that was very valuable last year. So I am 100% convinced that it's going to be the same again this year. So visit the FPI website and go and register there. And you can, even if you're not a member of the FPI, this isn't just for FPI members. You might pay a little bit more, but still you can do that. All right. So now I'm very excited as well for our next segment, because this is the personal development segment with Norma Simons, and here we go.
Good morning. Glad to be back today. I hope you're all well. Today we're talking about emotions, and it's something that we sometimes forget. When we start setting goals and working towards our goals, we think that, or we forget about the fact that our emotions matters. And after today's discussion, you might think a bit differently about it. So what I want to tell you about this morning is really something called the self-coaching model. So this is something that coaches all over the world use as a tool to show their clients how important sort of the internal environment is when you're setting goals. And that internal environment determines if you're going to take action, and then obviously determines if you're going to get the results. So let me tell you about it and then what it consists of. So firstly, it is, we're looking at the circumstance. So the circumstance is always neutral. So if I say, for instance, that my work environment is stressful, then really the work environment is the circumstance. And when we look further, you'll see that the circumstance is really not that important, but what follows is important. So secondly, then we look at thoughts. So what we think is important about the circumstance. So that's really the story we make up in our head about the circumstance. So our thoughts then would obviously then create our feelings. So our thoughts create this vibration we have in our body, which is called the emotion. So now once we have the emotion sort of drives the action. So if we have the right emotion, it would lead us to a certain action, or it won't lead us to any action. And that is number 4. And number 5 would be, if we take enough action, it would lead to our results. So hopefully I've given you enough that you can sort of see where the thinking and the emotion fits into reaching our goals, and how important it is to sort of get if I can use the analogy, to sort of use it to get the soil right if you want to plant your seeds of dreams and goals. So also important to mention is the emotions, and we have the positive and negative emotions. So we rarely talk about the positive emotion because that's not normally what sort of derails us. So the positive emotion is really those feelings we love feeling. The negative emotions are the ones that we don't like feeling. It's the unpleasant ones, or the ones that makes us uncomfortable. So I think there's definitely a purpose for both in our lives. It just makes up our human experience, and it's important to have both, because both have a purpose in our life, and it is important for healthy living. So emotions are really good and bad, and life in general is good and bad, and life is positive and negative. So we have to basically work with both. And that brings me to my second point. If we're talking about negative emotions, that brings me to also problems, because we sometimes think that problems as negative emotions shouldn't be happening to us, that we feel something is wrong with us, or maybe wrong with our lives because we feel it, but I think is totally untrue. And Tony Robbins has a saying which goes to the effect of that the only problem we have is to think that we shouldn't have them. So I think also it doesn't matter where you are in life. If you are an employee, you'll have problems. If you're the business owner, you'll have problems. If you are single, you'll have problems. If you're married, you'll have problems. So it's just basically the flavor of the problem that differs. So then, just to wrap up, and what you know now about emotions is really that we have to take responsibility and ownership for our emotions, and then we'll see that we can't really blame other people for how we feel. So we can't blame a situation, and we can't blame people for how we feel. So we know that, and remember that our thoughts create our emotions. And we have to take our power back. And if we know that we create our feelings, then we know that we can also solve our own problems. And then another thing that I think is helpful is if we can expand our emotion vocabulary, because we sometimes find that we label all of our emotions as, for instance, stress. Whereas if you go and look at each individual emotion that you feel and identify it correctly, then you'll see that it might be a little bit of frustration here, it might be annoyance there, it might be I'm tired. So instead of giving it that broad label of stress, which can be overwhelming. And then just lastly, that we can't use the excuse of negative emotion to keep us from taking action. So we know that negative emotion is part of our life, and it's not necessarily good or bad. We just have to basically take it along with the ride, but still take the action. So that's all I have for you today. Looking forward to next week. See you then.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Norma. Appreciate it. That was, again, very insightful. Our emotions play such a vital role. We've spoken about it a couple of times on other episodes as well. So really, really the way that Norma positions it really just puts the spotlight on it and let us understand exactly. And, and one thing that I experience from my just life and just things that happen to me and with me and for me, I guess, is that often I look at, I know that how I should react and I know how I should approach something which comes with that because I recognize the emotion. But it's often very difficult to have the right reaction right from the start. So very interesting and a lot of things to consider, and it's something that we need to pay attention to and that we really need to work on. So with that, we're going to get on to the featured section. But first, thank you very much to all our patrons, all 6 of you. Thank you very much for the small contribution that you are making towards the show. Most of you are actually on the top tier, so it's not such a small one. It's a $12 pledge, so thank you very much. And then there's some people on the $6 one. So thank you. Every single cent is going back. You may note that there's a bit of different colors here in the background, and that color will change because I took some of that money and invested it into getting new lighting for the studio. And it really make it more dynamic and more interesting. So hopefully as time goes on, as we are able to invest more and more and more back into the show, then that helps a lot. We do not charge anybody to come onto the show. We're not making revenue in any other way to support the show. All of that comes from the patrons and also from my own little bank account. So thank you very much for supporting us. If you are interested in supporting, you can go to just patreon.com/VCF. So unfortunately, I can't change that link at the end. It's still Virtual Coffee with Francois, because then if somebody watched maybe some of the older videos and they see that, the link won't work. So unfortunately, it's going to stay like that for now, but really excited. And thank you very much for everybody that is supporting the show. All right, so then with that, let's get into the featured topic of today, which is all about clever marketing tactics. Alrighty, so good morning. And let's talk a bit about the clever marketing tactics. And these are very simple things. But before we do, like I always do, I just want to set the scene and sort of share with you my thinking around this and also where this topic came from. And I think the first thing to clarify is what is the difference between strategy and tactic? I for a long time thought they were one and the same thing. But strategy for me is more the overarching plan. It's where we want to go. It's more focused on long term. So we know we need to do a few big things to get to where we want to be. And we know overarchingly, like let's say, for instance, you need to have a social media strategy, and you may decide as part of that strategy that you're just going to focus on LinkedIn, or you're just going to focus on Facebook or on Instagram, or you want to be everywhere. That is absolutely a strategy that you come up with. The tactics are the short-term actionable steps that we take. So they are basically smaller strategies within the big strategy, but it's more for me action steps. It is the little things that we do. So it's how we post. It's what we post. So those kind of things, how often we post, those are all tactics. Those are not strategy. The overall strategy is like we want to build brand, or we want to be found online, or we want to become a thought leader or be seen as a thought leader. Whatever that goal is for you, that's the strategy and the goal. And then you need to look at the tactics of how you are going to be able to do that. What is important, though, is that the tactics must be aligned to the strategy. If it's not aligned to the strategy, you are not going to reach what you are intending to reach. Again, it's like going to Cape Town, but you get on the N3 to Durban. It's not to say that you can't realize when you get somewhere, I don't know, to Harrismith or somewhere there that, whoa, I'm headed in the right direction, and then go through Bloemfontein back maybe to the N1, or even drive all along the coast to Cape Town. Just take a detour. It's definitely possible, but one needs to look every now and then, are you headed in the right direction? And that is what is very important. Now, some tactics can require a lot of effort. and a lot of energy and a lot of focus. But the things that I want to share with you today are actually exactly the opposite. So they are the low energy, low focus areas. It is just something that you need to do at least once a month or at least once a quarter. So that will be up to you. But these are 3 very practical, simple things. And the interesting thing is that most of us hardly use it. It's there in our face. It's an opportunity. We've seen others do it, but yet we don't do it ourselves. So that's what I want to share with you today. So the very first one is your email signature. I don't know if you ever thought of this to say, well, how can I use, or could I even use my email signature for marketing purposes? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. So part of it is what your email signature looks like and whether it complies to your brand and it helps create that full picture. When people deal with you, it's always consistent. Doesn't matter who in the business is sending an email. So that's one part of it. But then, because usually what happens when somebody receives your email, they either go directly to the attachment, if there is one, or they will read, but they stop at the signature. I promise you, nobody hardly ever goes right through the signature because like my signature, for example, is a little bit long. So it's there, and if people want to have a look and make the effort in order to go and click on links and check out things, that's great. That's what it's there for. But often people stop at the signature because for them it means that they've come to the end of the email. So what you could do is use that email signature, but just above the signature. So you make it part of your signature, but it sits, the very first line of your signature is actually just above where your signature actually starts. And what you could do there is that you can put a one-liner and that you can sort of have a call to action or something interesting to hook them, and then have a link that will take them through to get more information. If you can do that, when they do click, it means like, well, you've tickled their fancy and they are at the very least curious about what's on the other end, or it's something that resonates with them and they really want to know, and because it's something that they think they might need or might want or need to know about, and then they go through. And you can also decide to sort of not drip, but stagger the information so that you break it down. Maybe the first thing they go to is a little video, just a 1 minute, maybe 2 minute video at the most. They can watch that. If they want to know more, they just click a link and it takes them to a whole article or an entire thing that describes, or to a more in-depth video, whatever it may be. Maybe you have a podcast, it can direct them there. So you can do that. And what it means that if we send emails, I mean, just think about how many emails are we sending each day? Just responding to emails that are coming in. So we receive an email, we have to respond. Many of you, and I used to in the past, do not include a signature in those replies. And I think it's a missed opportunity. So I've switched it on that whenever I reply to an email, it automatically includes my email signature. And it always then is at the top. And that one-liner consistently is there in front of their face and giving you more chance that they would actually go and click on it. So that's very important. So use it in that fashion. Don't make a long story of it. Don't put a picture at the top of your email signature for marketing purposes, because probably you have your logo or picture of yourself, or if you've got a QR code that leads to your profile me, for example, or a QR code that would just link to something else, that would still be in there. So what you don't want to do is put another picture on top that's going to clutter the signature. So you want to keep that signature professional. You want to keep it clean. So by just using text, that is sort of the best route to go. So and then to make it easy for yourself is that you need to have a plan or a theme. So you can say for every single month there's going to be a theme, and then you go and change that little header or that first line of the signature at the beginning of the month, and it's there, and you put it on everybody's signatures in the company. And whenever they respond to a client, they send it out, whether it's to service providers or clients, whoever they're communicating with, they're getting the latest thing for that month. Because having a different line every single time is, one, not practical and feasible, and also human beings need repetition. They need to see things over and over and over again, because often they say, that looks interesting, I don't have time, I'm going to come back and click it again. So that is what they normally do. So you don't want that. At the very least, you want to change it quarterly. So have a quarterly theme then. But don't leave it like I've left it now the same for quite a long time. The call to action is for people to go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I asked them, have you seen the show? please go check it out and subscribe. And then below that, in very small print, it also asks for people to leave a recommendation for me on LinkedIn if they've worked with me for a long time. And, I've had about 2, I think, people do that actually. So, it's 2 recommendations I wouldn't have had. And once I've set it up, it didn't cost me any energy, thought, focus, nothing. It's just every time I send an email, it's there. It's there. And people read to that point to before the first image they can see in your email signature, because they believe that that's the end of the email that's relevant to them. All right, so that is email signature. Definitely something that you can use, and something that takes very little effort to sort of put things out there and make sure that clients see it. Sticking to email, the next one is the email header. Now, the email header, I guess we could have a debate around whether the header is, when you see the subject, usually below the subject line in your inbox, you can see that either the first line from the actual email, or if you put in other stuff, it'll show like a preview thing of that email, particularly if it's a marketing email. So that could also be seen as the header, but for me, the header is that very first line of the body of the email. So if you've got who you're sending it to, who it's coming from, the subject, and then you get into the email where you say, "Hi, Francois," that where you type the message, that's the body of the email. So right at the top, because they have to look at it, you can then use an image. So what you could do is quite a few things. You could either replicate your website's header. So you go look at your website, use the same image and the same menu structure then just below that, so that people can go and click on About Us or on Get in Contact, or whatever you've got on that menu and you want to drive them there. Those menu items will link directly back to the same link on your website that link in the menu of the website would actually then also be linking to. So they just go straight there. And I've done that for a very, very long time. And then when I got my new laptop and I changed things around, I'm not using a header at the moment, but it looks professional and it's nice and one can see. And it definitely does grab attention, specifically if it's a very nice, compelling image. Now, you don't have to include like a menu bar at the bottom. You can just use a very nice image, but don't put a big image. Just like a small little banner that would fit on the screen, number one, so it shouldn't be wider than 600 pixels. And sorry if I get technical, but it shouldn't be wider than that. And then, usually about, 150, 250, maybe not higher than 250 pixels. But something that would catch your eye. In other words, it needs to look fun, it needs to look vibrant, and it can also be a GIF. So a GIF is an image that is almost like a video. So it's animated, it moves, and Kate Holmes does this very well when she's got a video she wants you to watch. She doesn't use just a thumbnail. She actually has a GIF in the email that looks like she's talking to you, and you can't hear because you need to click to hear. So that drives then traffic or people to click on the video. It takes them to wherever the video is, because we can't embed videos in emails, but those kind of things. So if you have a marketing campaign or something that you want to make known to people, maybe you're having a client event or things like that, you could actually use that at the top. And you set it up once, and you can use it over and over and over again, and people see that every time that they go into your email or when they receive an email from you. So one, it looks very professional, but again, it's in their face, it's repetition, and so forth. So I think I've covered everything there. To use a banner, just make sure that the message type is set to HTML. So plain text emails cannot have images or anything. So the default email style is anyway HTML, but sometimes people respond from their tablets or their phones, and that email is then, although you sent an HTML-based email, it then comes back as a plain text, and then from there you lose any images or things like that. So just make sure that it is in HTML. I'm pretty sure if you have no clue what I'm talking about, you could, which is quite possible. So because I also for very long didn't understand all this stuff. But surely, we all have a child that is very technically, proficient. So ask them, or otherwise get your IT people involved or your email service provider involved to help you with that. The third one is, where am I now? I'm misclicking here, sorry. Is the investment reporting and auto replies functions. So this is a huge missed opportunity. And the reason for that is that, if you're using some form of system that are able to do consolidated reporting and you want to send that reporting every single month to your client or quarterly or whenever you send it to them, that is a very, it's a type of email that gets very high open rates. Why? Because clients want to see what their investments have done and where they are and what's going on. The missed opportunity here is the body of the email that accompanies that attachment. Because what do we usually do? Well, we put marketing or market feedback. So this has happened on the JSE and this has happened to this and that's happened, but it's very technical. Clients don't care. They just want to see what has happened to the markets or what has happened to their investment. That's all they want to see. So in that body of that email, it's an opportune time to just share either a marketing idea, so something that you want to bring to their attention, or if you do want to sort of tell them what happened in the last month, then write it in a very plain way, but just keep it to one paragraph. Just keep it short. Because if you've got a long body in that email, again, they're not going to read that. But if it's short and punchy, then that is a huge, huge opportunity. If you're sending out newsletters, your open rates are anything between 15 and 25% if you're lucky, sometimes even lower. But those kind of emails people open. So the chances that they will see your email, that they will read what you've written there. And also, it's also an education process to tell them, listen, whenever we send your statement to you, we offer some valuable insights and also things that are important that you should know about. So just make them aware that they should look at the body of that email because every single month is going to be different. And that is the huge, huge opportunity there. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit also about some tools that one could use for some things. So I'll talk about it a little bit later. But there are many systems that have the capability of sending these investment reports to clients. So IPS in Xplan does that. Seed Analytics does that. Who else? At Work has got At Wealth. They do that. Elite Wealth has a similar functionality. So the most important thing is that you need to ensure that whatever you're using is that it's relaying the information in such a way so that report should be constructed in such a way that it's easy for clients to understand. It doesn't help us sending reports to clients that we need to explain to them. So it's got to be user-friendly, if you will. But that is important. So there are many systems that are sending these things. So what that means is that you've got the opportunity to market using those emails and the attention that are drawn to those type of emails. Then also, the other opportunity would be more from a auto-reply functionality. So this could be, you could just, like when somebody sends you an email, they get an automatic reply back. And that automatic reply for this month says, thank you, we received your email. And then just below that, did you know? And then something with a link. Again, very, very short, so that you can remind people about things or drive them to your LinkedIn profile or drive them to an article or drive them to a video, whatever that may be, or just to your website in general. So that is definitely a huge, huge opportunity as well. And then also, if you have a ticketing system or a workflow system, a task system where you're managing all the tasks, the feedback that is sent from those tasks to the client is also an opportunity to include something very short. Again, that one-liner like you've got above your email signature. There is so much that we can do with that. So those are 3 low effort, not much thinking required, not much focus required. Just have a theme for every month or every quarter and just remember to update it for everyone. And it's once a month and then it's done and then there it goes. So let me just summarize some of the things that I spoke about. So first of all, you need to include interesting one-line prompts just above the email signature. Because remember, when they get to the signature, they think they're done. So if there is still a last sentence of text, and you can bold it, you can make it bigger, you can make it in a color or something if you also want it to stand out, or you can just make it look exactly the same as the rest of the email body. That doesn't matter. You must see what works and then do that. The second thing was use the header space in the email body to have some interesting, fun, dynamic, just eye-catching sort of an image that would get people, and that must be accompanied by a good call to action so that people will go and click on it. So that image must be clickable. You link, you can add a hyperlink to an image, and then when somebody hovers over it, they can see that they can click. They click it, and then they go where they need to go. The other alternative is to include a little bit of a menu below that as well, if you want to drive them, if they can choose where they want to go. So depending on what that specific image is really pushing and marketing. So definitely something to consider, and then make use of the opportunity afforded to you by high open rate emails, or in other words, emails that tend to get higher open rates. So in other words, more people open them and read them and click on them. So make use of those types of emails, and investment reporting is a big one in terms of that. It drives a lot of that, and then also auto replies, I think, is a very good one. You can, even then, if you've done all of this, you can support your initiative through very short WhatsApp messages that you can send to your client base. So for instance, if you sent out the investment reports, just send out a short little WhatsApp to those clients that you know are your investment clients. Don't send it to everybody, or unless that's also marketing, if you want to let other people know we send investment reports. So then you just send that short little message. Listen, your investment report is in your inbox. Please check it out. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. No links, no nothing. Just send it like that. And then the other thing that I haven't spoken about yet is that if you want to be more dynamic, so what that means is that, every time an email goes out, and whenever different people in your business are sending out emails, you want a different header or a different part of the email signature. You want to make those things update. So in other words, you've got a library of marketing things, and you want the system to automatically put them in every single time you send it. So every time it's a random email, but it comes from that library of things that you've created. Then there are some software options that you could use. And I'm just going to give 3 to you that you go and check out. Obviously, they cost money. I think there is one that is for free, or they're like $1 per month per email signature or something like that. So I haven't used that myself yet, but the one that I do know is Rocket Seed. Rocket Seed is a very popular one. There's quite a few advisors that I've seen use that. And what it does is it can put in a dynamic header or an email signature, or both. So you set it up the way that you want it. So Rocket Seed, one word, and probably rocketseed.com. So you can go and check it out there. The other one is Brand Mail. Again, one word, Brand Mail, like an email, but just mail. And then the last one is newoldStamp.com. They just call theirs email signatures. So that's the product's name, but you go to newoldStamp.com for that one. So those are 3 options that you can go and check out and see what would work for you. All right, so let me quickly, before I move on, just look at the comments. So Russell is saying good morning. I just also want to give a shout out to all the LinkedIn guys, because when I post here in the comments, it only goes to YouTube. Unfortunately, LinkedIn does not have the functionality for us to push comments from the studio to them, but we do get your comments. So good morning to you, Kevin, good morning, and everyone. It's been a while since I last joined. Yes, and on that note, I also want to say thank you to Kevin and Kobus, who's been pushing the channel in the last week out of their own accord. So thank you very much. I deeply appreciate it. And if you feel like you want to do the same, please, you're more than welcome to do that. You don't need to ask my permission. You can just go and tell others about the channel, and maybe there is a specific episode you want to promote, or maybe it's a channel in general and what we're doing. You're more than welcome to do that. Ben says, a great idea. Good morning, Adrian. Kuvendra says, good morning. And Ben says, I just changed my email signature. Like Ben, that's what I want to see. It's like people taking action. That is what needs to happen. Alrighty, so then with that, let's move on to the technology segment. I just had to take a sip of water. I've been talking a lot the last few days, so my throat is feeling it. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is a fit-for-purpose CRM. And I think this is such an important topic. I've had several conversations in the past, specifically in the last 2 years, and funny enough, just the period before the pandemic and lockdown and all of that, the end of 2019, I had quite a few of these discussions around, you know what, I'm looking for something else in terms of CRM. I'm looking for something that I can use or customize and, just use it the way that I want to use it. And with that, referring to like the normal CRMs that come with the all-in-one systems, basically in South Africa, that people feel there's always something missing or there's something they want to do that they don't have control over, or they think that there are things in there that are not necessary for them. And that is sort of the challenge. So I want to start off by talking just quickly about the difference between fit for purpose CRM and customized CRM. So there are quite a few options, and I speak about this in my Employing Technology webinar as well, about what are the different options in terms of CRM, the alternatives to the normal financial planning focused CRMs. But it's important to understand that when something is fit for purpose, it was built for a specific industry, for a specific user. And in that case, a fit for purpose CRM would be something like Client Focus from Xplan. It would be an At Work and a Elite Wealth and an Avalon and so forth, because they all have built-in CRMs. And those CRMs are really meant to cater for all the needs of a financial planning business. Now, the biggest thing that I've seen over the years is that, one, we don't take the time to play around with the systems and understand what's necessary. And even if we do, and we do know what these systems can do, we are reluctant to spend the time and to get things set up. Or we make, and I think it's not a bad idea, but you sort of give that responsibility to someone in your team and you say, you are the CRM champion for this business, so you got to make sure these things are set up and runs and whatever we need, etc. So that's on the one hand. The other problem is, so some of the systems will give you there's the CRM. There's not much you can do. You can maybe change a label or maybe you can add a custom field that you want. But what you see is what you get. Other systems offer you the opportunity to choose. Do you want a system like that, that's what it is. You've got very limited things that you can change. Or do you want full control over your CRM and add and change things to your heart's delight? Now, obviously, the more customization you can do and the more configuration you can do, the more expensive it would be. So often, if price is your primary consideration when choosing these, and I had this discussion with somebody the other day, it's not about what it costs. It's about how does your business work? Do you know and understand your needs? And then are you able to match the system that are the closest to that? The chance of us getting a system that caters for 100% of the things you want to do is very, very slim. So, but I say if you can cover at least 80% of the things that you want to do, then fantastic. And I'm quite confident that you can get up to as high as 95%. And maybe if you wait a little bit longer, you'll get closer and closer to that 100% because there's development that happens all the time. But it's to understand what you want to do, your value proposition to your client, your processes, the way that you want to interact with clients, the way you want to service them. What level of automation can these systems do? How many things do you need to do manually and maybe do multiple times versus you do it once and it just happens and it does its thing. So usually with a CRM, some of the things that are very important to us as financial planners and financial professionals is obviously the personal information of the client. Now, that can just be basic, or you can really go as deep as what job do they do? Do they smoke? What do they weigh? Keep all that underwriting kind of information in the system. So it's like, what is important to you? There's no right or wrong answer. Obviously, the more information you have, the better you can do data mining and the better you can put marketing campaigns together and the better you'll understand your client. And you can just add to that every single time that you meet with a client. So more information is good. Less information is not bad necessarily, as long as you've got the very least information that you do need. Then obviously financial information. And this is usually where outside CRMs fall short and a lot of custom fields needs to be created and a lot of work needs to go into it. And you always have the risk when they upgrade those CRMs that something will break. And then you need to go investigate and fix that. But financial information, assets, liabilities, income, expenses, policies, retirement funds, annuities, medical aid, short-term wills, all that kind of information which is pertinent to financial planning, the CRM systems cater for that, at least in a sense that is sufficient. But then also up to like how detailed do you want to go, and you have then full control over what that is. So again, understand what you want to do and where you want to go. So that's very important. Then also, I think the other thing where you have a fit-for-purpose CRM is that they obviously offer native integration with the financial planning tool of that CRM. But also often, if the system offers APIs, you could technically connect another planning tool to that system. So if you prefer a CRM from one provider, you could probably, use the tools from another one and let them talk to one another. Some of the providers don't like doing that. So technically it's possible, but it may be a business rule or just a decision that they've made not to do that. So, but that is possible, and also integration with other systems is also possible. Specifically, if it's not competition for them, then usually they would say, "Oh no, let's look at integrating maybe with accounting systems or things like that." So, you may have a revenue management system, and you may have a CRM, and then it's important for those things to talk to one another. So that integrations are all possible. Then tasks and workflow. Again, you got systems that will offer you very basic. It's just you literally just make a note, and that's that. And then you got on the other end of the scale where you can add your documents to that. You can send emails directly from there. You can keep track of it. And obviously all of these task and workflow management systems you are able to assign it to somebody specific in your business, and they can then look at it and say, well, okay, this is mine, and send it back, and there's an audit trail to see who has done what. So you don't have those thick files anymore. Whatever task there is, everything sits against that task. Now, many other CRMs does also offer these task or workflow kind of functionality, and that could work very well. You could even use something like Trello. But again, Trello, you'll need to see if that can link with integration to your CRM, because now, again, you don't want to be duplicating work. You want to do it once, and then it needs to be in the system. So that's very important. Automation as well, very important. How much can that system automate? And there's some systems that are not big on automation, and there are other CRMs that are fantastic with automation, and the world is really your oyster. So again, if you understand your processes and you can identify the things that can be done by the computer or the system instead of a human, there's huge opportunity there to become more profitable just because of that. Then also the level of reporting and data mining, what you can do from a marketing point of view and also from a communication point of view. Now, communication can be, I want to go and data mine for a specific subset of my clients and send them a communication to be able to do that. So sometimes the systems will integrate with MailChimp or MailerLite or these external bulk emailing systems. Sometimes they offer the functionality from within the system. But you need to understand that as well and see what is going to work for you and what makes it so much easier. Which of those things will actually keep the record in your CRM so that you have record that you've actually sent that email. Then all of them do offer document stores, whether it is the customized CRMs like HubSpot or Salesforce or Capsule CRM, any of those types of, which is really sales focused. You do have document stores there as well, but also all the fit for purpose CRMs also offer that. And the nice thing is that you can have a document store where you just dump documents. That's for the business, but then you can also have, you do also have a document store against each of the clients. So all of the compliance documents, you can set up standard folder structures and you can keep record of all of that. So you don't use Dropbox or OneDrive or things like that. So it's all in the system behind a login, and that is really what you want. The other thing which we're not really using in CRM, I think some bigger businesses do, but this is your managing your diary and reminding clients about upcoming appointments, setting reminders for reviews. All of that kind of stuff can happen in the fit-for-purpose CRMs, and then also your pipeline, your prospects and where you are. So if your staff can keep that up to date, you can always see what's in the pipeline, where you are, what status it is, and that kind of stuff. And not all CRMs do that, but that is definitely something that is very valuable. All right, so that's the technology segment this morning. Next up, let's do a wrap of today. Right, so it was quite an exciting morning. We first had the news with David Kopp, and David shared some announcements from the FSCA warning the public against a particular person, saying that they have the backing of the FSCA and using that in fraudulent emails. So that was a big one. Then the budget trilogy that is coming up. So that is also happening next week, the 25th. It's in the morning, so there are quite a few speakers, and they are doing it in conjunction with, so it's the FBI site, and I can't remember the other one, but I know there's 3 bodies involved in that, 3 professional bodies, include CPD and all of it. It's an online event, so you can watch all of it at your home or at your office if you're already going to the office, but those are the things that they've spoken about. Norma spoke about emotions and how important that is, and the things that we need to consider and understand and think about. And then I then handled the feature topic of today, which was some clever marketing tactics that is low effort, low energy, easy stuff to do, low hanging fruit, things that we're not doing. So go watch that segment again if you want. And then I spoke in the technology section about fit for purpose CRMs versus customized CRMs. And then before I let you go, we've got, I'm also doing a budget review session the evening of the 25th. So if you can't wait, then you can do the other things that are available. But I'm also doing a budget review. This is a complimentary session, and you will earn 1.5 CPD points. So I only sent it out last night. We've had really a lot of people registering already. So thank you for that. I guess the complimentary does help as well as the CPD. But please go and check it out. I did send out an email yesterday. And if you are interested to get that, just get in touch with me. I'll send you the link. And I haven't got the link on here because I haven't created one. But once I create one, I'll, if it's just an easy link that'll take you straight there, then you can go check it out. But yeah, so we're going to talk in this about the budget speech, obviously the impact on financial planning. I talk about the things that are in the budget speech in the annexures, but have not been mentioned actually in the speech, because that's where the sneaky stuff comes in. And then I'm also going to talk about the things that have been implemented, the T-Day stuff. We're going to talk about the Taxation Laws Amendment Act that came into effect earlier in the year, and that was the changes from last year's budget, and also obviously the immigration changes in terms of retirement funds. So I'm also going to touch on that. And then there will be time for Q&A. It's about an hour and a half. You get 1.5 CPD points, and I hope that I will see you there. And with that, that is the end of today's show. So thank you very much. I deeply appreciate it, and I wish you well. Have a fantastic weekend. I'll see you back next week, same time, same place. God bless, prosper, and raise the bar.